Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy. Welcome back to another video. So today we're going to be talking about The Boys Season 4. Yesterday they released a trailer, and I've watched it, and I've had plenty of time to think it over and kind of go through the trailer a couple of times, and I have together a list of way too early predictions. Personally, I think that whenever they release a teaser trailer for something like this, you typically cannot figure out what all is going to be happening in a season. You honestly can't even really tell with a show like The Boys, where it's not necessarily like, here's the protagonist, here's the antagonist. I kind of like the fact that it's just a bunch of morally gray characters who are fighting, their own battles and their own, sides of the story. Like, obviously, Homelander is seen as, like, the villain, but I'm sure there are people out there who are kind of, like, rooting for Homelander and kind of see him as more of the protagonist of the story. And that's something that I liked about The Boys since the beginning of The Boys is, obviously, superheroes are corrupt, but some of the stuff that Billy Butcher does is taking it way too far as well. And I feel like there are very few true heroes in this show, and I really appreciate that. And now to get into the actual topic of the video, this show is going to be insanely unpredictable because that's what Amazon's been doing with these. But I'm going to try to predict some things that are going to happen in Season 4, and I'm going to take you along with me on that. Alrighty, so the first thing that I want to talk about is The Boys Gen V, and is there going to be any connections between The Boys Gen V and The Boys Season 4? Personally, I don't expect there to be a whole lot, if there is any at all, because Gen V was kind of like a very new thing for Amazon. They were doing a spin-off. They weren't entirely sure how successful it was going to be. Obviously, they don't want to necessarily put all of their eggs in one basket when they're making some projects like this. I definitely do think that, for them, it's easier to be like, okay, well, we could easily connect Gen V to The Boys, but I feel like that's not something they 100% would have planned ahead for and been like, yeah, Gen V is definitely going to be a success. We can go ahead and put some of these characters in The Boys Season 4. I think that it's one of those things where it's like a square can be a rectangle, but a rectangle can't be a square. And I think that I would not assume that there's going to be any direct tie-ins to The Boys Season 4 from Gen V. Now, that being said, there is one individual storyline that I think will kind of have a through line, but a lot of people online have kind of speculated that, like, Kate was going to be a part of the Seven, or Sam was going to be a part of the Seven now that, Homelander came in and he saved the day, and he came and, was like, these guys were the actual heroes and stuff like that. A lot of people have been kind of speculating that they might be young recruits for the Seven, and personally, I don't see that happening. I think that for the most part, the Seven is a very more adult team, and I don't think that they're going to be taking these random people straight out of college and putting them on the Seven. That was going to be happening with the Fire Boy, who is, what was his name? Was he Golden Boy? Is that what they called him? Golden Boy? Luke's character from Gen V, he was supposed to be stepping up and being a member of the Seven, but I feel like with him specifically, he was like an all-star, he was a senior, somebody who was, been number one his entire college career or whatever, and I don't think that it is something that could just be easily expected of someone for them to immediately go from college to the Seven. I feel like there's going to be some weird, like, game shows to try to get people into the Seven, and there's going to be stuff like that, but also, right now, Homelander is hand-selecting his team, and I don't think he's going to want children on his team, if that makes sense. Alright, so basically what I wanted to touch on with that specific subsection was, do I think any of the specific characters from Gen V are going to be crossing over into this show? And I think my straight up answer is going to be no. I'm not expecting a single one of the characters to show up, and if they do, it is going to be an incredibly small role, and it's going to be something that happens towards the end of the last episode. Like, maybe the four who are in prison or whatever, or in that, like, little holding cell that they were in, it's going to be revealed that they're somewhere in Vought Tower, and during, like, the last episode, somebody's going to accidentally break them out while they're trying to break out, like, Starlight or somebody, right? Obviously, no idea, but I'm not expecting them to be somebody who is an important, part of the story for The Boys Season 4. It just doesn't make sense to me that they would do that. And then on top of that, I'm thinking, if anything, it's only going to be set up, like how we had Anthony Starr and we had Carl Urban show up in the last episode of The Boys Gen V, just pretty much to be like, oh, these are some things that they're up to right now. Here's some things that they're interested in. And just kind of to, like, clarify the fact that the boys know about the stuff that happened in Godolkin, and Vought has a general idea of what happened in Godolkin. And it kind of is just helping us have a general idea of, like, it's basically just showing us the cards that have been dealt. And, like, being like, okay, Homelander knows about this thing that happened in Gen V. Butcher knows about this thing that happens in Gen V. I think it's basically just letting us know that, like, the woods is a thing that people know about now, essentially. So, I jokingly, in my trailer reaction, said that I think that this show is kind of going to end with Homelander running for president or something like that. I don't 100% actually see that happening. I think that him running Vought is enough power for him. But I did notice when I rewatched the trailer a couple of times, it appears that Victoria Newman might be successfully getting the political power that she's been looking for. And I don't know if necessarily if that's going to be a good thing, bad thing, what that's going to mean for Supes in general, because she is currently the person in possession of the deadly virus that was made in Gen V, and that could potentially come into play, but I don't know if she necessarily would want to risk that, because for one, she herself is a Supe, and for two, she has a kid who is now a Supe, because she thought that that was the only way she could protect her child. So I think it's very interesting. She's probably going to be eventually somebody who is a person of power. I don't remember if she's running for president. I believe she's running for president, but she might just be running for Congress. Not entirely sure, but I am definitely intrigued to see what's happening with the political side of this show. I'm not a very political person, but I do think that this show does a really great job of having something to say. This show is very political, whether it's like very, open and very obvious, like with characters like Victoria Newman, or if it's more subtle things like, okay, this character represents this person in real life, and oh, this character kind of represents this person in real life. Because although this is a comic book medium and these are characters based off of the comics, they are definitely heavily implying that, some of these characters that we are seeing currently are kind of related to some people in real life who've done some controversial stuff. So I definitely like how meta this movie is. Not movie, I keep calling it a movie. This show is. And I really think that this show has potential to do a lot of very interesting things with the political stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and say my boldest prediction and like my craziest prediction that I have for this show, season 4, way out in advance. Like I said, I know absolutely nothing. Amazon's gonna throw so many curveballs, so this probably isn't even remotely close. But I'm going to predict that somehow, some way, Homelander by the end of this show is going to either be some form of like president or dictator, or he's going to die. One of those two things need to happen. In my opinion, with how long this show has been going on, Billy Butcher and Homelander, one of the two of them needs to die, and it needs to be in a really epic battle. It needs to be the final, fight sequence of this season, and I think that it needs to be something that is super emotional, impactful. I think that if Billy Butcher is the one dying, it needs to be a sacrifice that seems very noble and kind of like a really good way to tie off his character arc. But I think that if they are going to keep going with Homelander being this big menace to society, I think that there's only one way to really go from here, and it's to quite literally make him the president. And I feel like that would be such an interesting storyline to do, and I feel like that would really be a great way to set up the final season. I don't know if season 5 is going to be the final season, but I'm expecting season 5 to be one of the last seasons. And it would make sense to kind of like set up Homelander in like the biggest position of power he could possibly be in before that last season has that final showdown. Alrighty, my last thing that I want to go ahead and talk about is Jensen Ackles as Soldier Boy was an incredible addition to the show last season, and I think that he was a whole lot of fun, but he was kind of, I'm not going to say underutilized, but he was only in about 4 of the episodes out of the entire season, and he was a really fun character, and there was a lot to do with the character, but they didn't do, in my opinion, that much with the character, and I just want to talk about a way that I think he potentially could be coming back in this season. And obviously, I don't know if he is going to, but at the same time, Jensen Ackles is great star power. I feel like if you can get Jensen Ackles to come back into your show, you definitely should do it. So my big prediction for how Jensen Ackles is potentially going to be involved in this season, like I mentioned before, the only Gen V storyline that I expect to really carry through to this story and this season 4 of The Boys is the side of the story that is the virus that was made, something that could go around and kill superheroes, and something that is really interesting. I like the concept of science versus super, like something about like enhanced individuals who are just enhanced because and what's it called? I guess they use compound V, and compound V is technically science. I was gonna say I like the fact that like science versus magic, but it's not magic. They just have powers. I don't know, but what's it called? A bioweapon being used in some form of superhero concept sounds dope as hell, and I actually really like that. And so I hope that it's a part of this show, and something that I think would be really interesting is, since Soldier Boy is currently being held captive by Mallory or whatever, and they could potentially, you know, unearth him if they absolutely have to. I think now that they've discovered that he has the power to kind of take away people's superpowers, something that could potentially be happening is Billy kind of wants to, you know, set this virus out into the wild and kind of just let it run its course and kill as many supers as possible, because he's not a really big fan of superheroes. But the problem with that is they now have superheroes on their team. They have Kimiko, they have Starlight, and it's going to be really problematic if they try to release this virus and some of the people on their team are people who could potentially be harmed by it. So I think that's something that might potentially happen in this, is Kimiko giving up her powers. I don't see that happening because that was a big part of her storyline last year, or Starfire giving up her powers. Not Starfire. That's Teen Titans Go. Starlight giving up her powers, and like I said, I don't see this happening, but I think that that's probably one of the few ways we would get Jensen Ackles back this season. I don't see any other ways we get him back, unless he somehow literally just, like, breaks out, and then it's kind of like a repeat of last year where it's like they have to go chase him down and try to find him. But that being said, I just have one last thing I kind of want to touch on. Black Noir showed up in the trailer, and I think Maeve might have showed up in the trailer. I could be wrong about the Maeve one. But things that I want to say, my predictions about both of those two things. Noir, I'm pretty sure the actual Black Noir that we were introduced to and we got very close to last season is actually dead. And that's just going to be a random person who's wearing the costume because he thinks it looks good for their image. They really like Black Noir, and he's somebody who's been on the team for a really long time. And Homelander is like, we really got to have some OGs or people are going to start, you know, really disliking the Seven because of how often people are switching in and out. So that's my prediction. Black Noir, I think the actual Black Noir is dead, and that's going to be some guy who fills in. And I imagine the way that they're going to actually reveal that is there's going to be some event, and Black Noir is going to be speaking, and people are going to be like, he doesn't do that. Why? He's talking right now? And people are going to be very thrown off. And then he's going to have a confrontation with, what's it called? Homelander. And Homelander is going to kill him and then replace him with another person to fill in for Black Noir. I just think that would be a really cool concept. I don't know if that's going to happen, but that's something I personally think would be pretty interesting. But that being said, that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about in this video. Thank you guys so much for coming by, checking it out. I love and appreciate you guys so much for watching. If you liked it, feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll hopefully see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Bow, bow, bow.
He wanted me to drop a verse, I did this. We planned a day, then we did this. Wanna be in love with the girls with the kisses. Don't give a damn, I'll rid this. I like this when I run the distance. I run a 5K, you go ballistics. I wanna live within the business. Buy more than what's on the clearances. You're getting bent cause I know you're a physicist. I wanna deny this shit, I'm unlimited.